Hey, a quick heads up before we start. The next cohort for the Strategic Leadership Accelerator is open right now, and spots are filling up. If you're ready to stop being stuck in the weeds and start leading at a higher level, stick around after the episode. In part 1 of Breaking the Tactical Cycle, you learned a whole lot about why you are stuck in doing. We talked about all the myths that really trip people up. But now we're going to get to the really good stuff, the rewiring. How do you rewire yourself? How do you step into the identity? How does that drive the behaviors of being a truly strategic leader? There's a lot of great stuff on this masterclass that I did live to over 100 leaders from around the world, and you are going to learn how to make that transformation yourself. Here we go.
Welcome to Leadership Mindset 2.0. Practical neuroscience and psychology to transform you from a tactical doer into a strategic leader. Here is your host, former social entrepreneur of the year and coach to some of the world's top executives, R. Michael Anderson.
The third step is embody the strategic leader identity. And if you have been listening to me lately, there's something I haven't put in the book, but I've been working more and more, and I talk more about identity. If you want to make changes quickly, you make changes on the identity level because your identity drives your behavior. Often what we do is we want to change behavior, so we work on the behavioral level, but then we go back to the old behaviors because we didn't change it on the identity. The identity is who you feel you are. And so we need to work from the inside out. We need to have you claim the strategic leader identity so that you can show up powerfully, and that'll drive your behaviors. Because we can change your behaviors, and I'll tell you how we're going to do this. The first person you have to convince is yourself. The identity is from the inside out, and so you have to start working on that rewire about how you see yourself. You have to have faith and trust in yourself that you have this capability and that you have the ability, and you do. You just need to claim that and own that. And you need to redefine yourself and your role. I have this great process called a SMAT audit. And look, I'm horrible at acronyms, but it's SMATA, which can clear up to 40% of your time. People do that and they're like, oh my God, they literally get freaked out because they have all this time and they don't know what to do with it. Because being a strategic leader is so foreign to them that they don't truly understand what they need to do. So, which is fine. This gives us a chance to redefine yourself and your role. It takes a full internal commitment plus a set of tools and strategies. So that's how you need to come at this. Lead with influence, not control. We want to control everything. That's what made us a good doer. But that leads to a disengaged team. That leads to you burning out. That leads to you doing everything. And we can't do that anymore. You need to learn influence. And influence comes from your team. Influence means working with high-level stakeholders, peers, bosses, investors, board of directors, whatever it is. I trained with some Navy SEALs one time. And when I say I trained with Navy SEALs, it wasn't like the Navy SEALs. It was like some corporate Navy SEALs thing, but it was still cool. It's still really cool. Still Navy SEALs putting us through the ropes. In some free time, we were just hanging out. And I said, hey, look, I like war movies. What is there in a war movie what do they get wrong about war? What is not realistic in a war movie? And one guy says, if we were ever like on the front lines where bullets were whizzing by and my general is on the front lines, I would tackle him and move him to the back. I'm like, what do you mean? Don't you want them to lead by example? He's like, dude, if my general goes down, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what happened on the left flank. Nobody knows what's happening on the right flank. He's the person with the whole plan. He needs to lead us from the high level. And if he's dead, we are screwed. I was like, whoa. He's like, he should not be anywhere near anything. That really woke me up to what and hopefully that wakes you up to what your team needs. Your team doesn't need you doing their work. They need you clearing obstacles, having a vision, growing people, moving things ahead strategically. being 3 steps, 5 steps ahead of everything so that they can continue to do their work. So you need to influence, not control. Brandon, a law firm practice group leader, he spent his whole career as the go-to doer. And after making this shift, he described it as learning to build and lead a team instead of being the bottleneck. He realized that he was holding everything back with his control. And I'll give you a nice one to do with this. Here's a nice take-home to do. I call it power preparation. First of all, don't go from meeting to meeting. Leave yourself 5 minutes between meetings. Have enough presence to when a meeting is like 15 minutes before the meeting's over, say, okay, let's wrap this up in 10 minutes. Don't be the type of person that comes to every meeting 2 minutes late. Get off a meeting a couple minutes early. Take a breath, whatever you got to do, get a glass of water, stretch your legs. But when you get back before the next meeting, take 2 minutes. What is your goal in the meeting? What is your approach going to be? What's your framing? Go back, read the book if you want to remind yourself what framing is. Who's in the room? What do they need from you? This is so simple and nobody does it. Not nobody does it, but a lot of people don't do it. And if you add this, you're going to start showing up strategically because you're going to be one step ahead of everybody else. And that's where we need you, at least one step ahead. Cynthia from the last cohort said, I achieved my goals in both key meetings. She got this, she did it, and she's like, boom. Just taking 2 minutes to think about it, the approach had a massive difference. This is what I'm talking about. You need to be strategic in every meeting, in every conversation, in every decision. And you do that by reflecting. You do that by being intentional. And if if that's not happening, that's not because you're doing certain things like this. And that's what I mean by you need a mindset and then you need a bunch of tools. They both support each other. Last thing is to become a strategic player. We need people to see you as a strategic player. And what do I mean by that? It's like, how do you show up in meetings? Like if you sat in a meeting that you were in, were you like, she's got it going on. I really have confidence in her strategically. I like how she speaks, loudly and clearly. I like how she dresses. Or not. What would you say about yourself in meetings? Because you got to figure out, how do other people perceive you? Are you invited to the important gatherings? Are you on the A team? And are you thinking, speaking, and acting at the highest levels? And your takeaway from this is just think about how do you show up in your meetings. Watch a recording back. If you were watching you, would you be like, hey, this person, I really have confidence in this person as a strategic leader or not? So, the Great Rewire, 5 steps to this. The first 2 clear the ground. This is like your foundation, right? And then the middle one shifts who you are, and the top 2 change how you lead and how you're perceived. Now, let me show you what this looks like on the other side. Because 6 weeks from now, imagine that you've made these shifts. You wake up like on a Monday, and instead of that low-grade dread, and you're scrolling through messages to see what caught fire overnight, you feel clear. You know what you're going to do this week. You know what you're going to achieve. And then you walk into the next important meeting, and you didn't have to study for hours and hours and prepare for this next important meeting because you had that confidence in yourself. And you brought what they needed, your vision, your intuition, your high-level thinking. And even though problems come up in that meeting, you calmly handle them because you understand what is needed. You don't try to outwork or outthink the problem. You're there present, and you give the solutions that are needed. That's really where we want to take you. Now, that's the Great Rewire process. We covered myths. We covered what it looks like. We covered what it looks like in leaders. We covered a whole lot of things. And if you are looking to make this shift and you're like, hey, that's great. I know what I need to do now. That's great. However, a lot of people don't necessarily change and transform with just information like this. So if you'd want my help, if you want to make this shift through a program, I just want to bring that up to you now because what we're doing is I just opened up the 2026 Strategic Leadership Accelerator, and we're filling this cohort. And what this is a 6-session live leadership transformation and coaching program. It's really a journey. It's 2 hours per session on Tuesdays. It starts on May 12th. And this isn't about learning the 5 steps. This is about implementing the 5 steps. And you do get content, but you get a lot of coaching, you get a lot of integration, and you get a lot of feedback. In between sessions, you have mindset anchors to keep you on the right track. There's a private community and direct access to me, lifetime access to recordings and tools. Last cohort had 31 leaders from 15 plus countries in it. We are going to learn the 5 steps, and I'll give you an example of all 5 of the Great Rewire that we're going to go through. And you're going to move from constantly reacting to problems to operating from clarity, calm, and intention. It is very common for people that go through just the first class to clear up 40% of their time so that they can be more strategic. Then we're going to break your doer habit. We're going to rewire this reflex where you fly in and do it all. And you're going to move from busy and burnt out to focused and effective. We are going to work on your strategic leader identity. We're going to transform this, the psychological core. We're going to do the internal work that makes all the external shifts stick. You're going to learn how to lead with influence. You're going to learn delegation, stakeholder influence, how to orchestrate rather than control. And then you're going to move to becoming a strategic player, from doing a good job to being a crucial leader. You're going to learn how to show up in senior rooms, how to communicate and work with people at the highest level in organizations. We are going to make you a strategic player, how you ask the right questions, how you come across the right way. And you're going to get recognized as the strategic leader that you're becoming. I talked about Brandon. He came through the program and he talks about a bottleneck from the transform from the bottleneck to the builder. Susan, a new CEO of a utility company, she got feedback from her board chair that she was courageous in how she was leading. Her words is, this is supposed to be fun and rewarding, and I'm finally starting to feel that. Edward, who's a business owner, went from not knowing what strategic leaders actually does to feeling, again, in his words, liberated, energized, excited, and empowered. Aaron in New York stopped feeling guilty about non-tactical time and started showing up with real strategic presence. A couple other quotes. People at the executive level started listening to me differently after I shifted in how I showed up. And on the page, we have a bunch of video testimonials. You can hear people in their own voice. I feel like a real executive now, not just someone with a fancy title. Okay, boom. That's a lot of talking for me in a row. All right, so I'm going to go to questions. You can pop them in. Now I'm looking at the chat. So you can put them in the Q&A or the chat. What questions do you have that I can answer? My team is too busy. I cannot delegate right now. That feeling is exactly myth 2. The reason you feel that way is precisely the reason you need that. We need to teach you how to set up delegation so it actually works, not abandonment with optimism. And this requires a mindset shift on yours and maybe with your team as well. And what people do when they go through this strategic accelerator is they learn to use all these tools for themselves, and then they also coach their team on it. And your team needs to be more strategic. You need to grow leaders in your team. And so as you work on these yourselves, you also create more leaders within your team, and then you help them spend their time on more higher leverage things, and everybody wins, and they get some of their time back as well. Even leaders have to do things. How do you manage these alongside thinking strategically? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. Leaders have to do things. And it's not like when we say go to strategic leader, you don't do anything. You don't do any tasks. That's not accurate. That's not correct in pretty much any job. But what it is you need to start making progress. So you still need to do things. Oftentimes when I have one-on-one coaching clients and they're like, I'm overwhelmed, we pull up their task list. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Because I've always done it. Well, why are you doing that? Yeah, probably somebody else should do that. Why are you doing that? So, right there's a couple things you should get off. And so you need to go in with the attitude of, I need to be working strategically. So how can I clear off 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of my things? And so you need to really meet it where it's at. Okay, do you have an insight on the impact of late diagnosis ADHD on making the transition from tactical to strategic? Does it make it easier or harder? Yeah, Tony, that's a good question. And look, ADHD and AUDHD and ADD and all the other things, They are such broad terms, but this is psychology and neuroscience, what I teach. So it helps everybody. And the thing is, when you're more busy, it makes your ADD and ADHD worse. And when you get time for thinking, it makes it better. If you knew me beforehand, I would not even make eye contact with people. I was so twitchy. And this is back, 20 years ago before they did a lot of these tests. But I would not be able to sit through a meeting. I would be twitching all the time. But I worked a lot on myself, and there's a lot of different areas to work on, and I slowed things down. Now, it's different in every single person, but if you don't make progress on this, you're gonna stay exactly where you're at. Challenge is being promoted and not having a complete team and being stuck in the doing because you have no choice. Insufficient resources to do everything required and reach goals, and tough position to hire for. I get it, Jason. A lot of people are in this situation too, but you got two choices. One, you can continue to do everything the way you were going to, and I can guarantee you, because the thing is, when we get too busy, we're less strategic. And when we get too busy and we're in overwhelm, we're not making good use of our time. You need to meet these things head on, and you need to do things like manage upward and user influence upward and with your peers. And you need to do things to get the resources you need. You need to come off as more strategic to hire the right A players. And you need to learn these tools and skills for you and for your team to teach them these tools and skills. Because if nobody has these tools or skills or mindset, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. People are going to get more burnout, and it's just going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are going to learn a lot of tools, and there's a lot of room for coaching in this. And yes, we do. It's interesting managing up, because I do have business owners in here, and I've been thinking about doing, because I do content on managing up. We do work a lot on impacting others, influencing yourself through the organization, et cetera. So basically, yes, you will get visibility in managing up. We work in a 24-hour operation. Do you recommend a different approach to strategic leadership to an operation that doesn't have a shutoff to avoid burnout for senior leadership? All these things are still applicable. You still need time to think. What you need to do in a 24-hour operation is you have to get clear about the roles, and you have to get clear about boundaries. And you have to communicate them and come to an agreement with the leadership team. And if you would need help having those conversations, when you would be at this course, you would learn content, but then you would ask questions, and I would coach you. And perhaps, for example, some other people would talk about their experiences too. And I was just talking to a lady that's just going through my Mindset Accelerator. She's like, I love this course, and a benefit that I didn't even know I would get is the network. And she's connected to so many people that have the same issues, and they collaborate and things like that. So that is really what you're going to get. You're going to get my awesome expertise, of course, but you're going to get a lot of other smart people too. If I were to change one thing tomorrow at work to be more strategic, what would that be? George, I just gave you a whole masterclass, and you just want to know one thing to change. Oh my gosh, dude. Really challenging me. The simplest thing to do is a power hour. Just give yourself an hour to think. And look, if you just only think that 1 hour, you in 6 or 8 weeks, you're going to be much more strategic. But the one thing to do would be to commit to being more strategic. That, if you want to talk about the one single thing, it all starts with your commitment. It all starts with your intention. It all starts with letting go of that one trapeze bar and making that leap to the second. Andre, my team has recently been submitted to several changes with the entrance of new recruiters and the moving of other ones to teams or retirement or pure exit of the company. How can you adapt the strategic approach in a changing environment of people, process, and technologies, namely the use of AI? Oh, Andre, I got a lot of answers for you here. The more change, the more strategic you have to be. And when Google was going through its massive scale up, this is, I don't even know, 15, 20 years ago, they did yearly strategic planning every month. And the more change you're going through, the more you have to step back and really look at things strategically. And the more important it is for you to have a strategic mindset, because what happens in change more than when there's a period of less change is people get real busy and they start doing things that are going to really take a lot of time and energy. And you have to be the person that makes sure that they're spending their time on the right thing, that they're not wasting resources, time, etc. And that takes strategic input. That takes strategic wisdom. So we need you to be even doing less. When I am in a really busy time for myself, I make sure, like if I'm doing a lot of traveling, I just make sure, for example, that I understand all my travel and all my travel is going to be correct. And it like takes me half an hour to an hour. And I'm like, I got all this stuff to do. But if my basics aren't correct, I'm going to screw myself there. And what leadership to me is, and I talk about that, I say this a lot, and especially strategic leadership, is spending time up front so you have to deal with less, this is a technical term, crap later. And it's having the discipline and slowing things down to ask the right questions. So if you're going through all this change, we need you to slow stuff down. We need you to ask the tough questions. We need you to slow everybody else down to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And I'm coming out with a lot of new stuff on AI strategy and organizational readiness, so stay tuned on that. Ben, there does seem to be some confusion about what burnout actually is. It's not tiredness. It is an issue with your nervous system. Everybody, it's been a real pleasure. And I just want to, I hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. On the Facebook group, on the LinkedIn group, on LinkedIn, drop an email. I love talking about this stuff, as you can see. I love teaching this because I don't know anywhere else you can change the identity and change the behavior. And just remember, rmichaelanderson.com/strategic. Early bird closes April 27th. Registration closes May 5th. We're going to have, I know some people that are already like, we're going to sign up. We're going to have a great international crew of leaders from all different countries, all different levels. And if you really want to become a strategic player, you want to sign up for this. It's your move. There you go. A massive download about everything I know about moving from tactical to strategic. Actually, it's not everything I know. I know a ton more, but I wanted to give you a lot in this 2-part podcast episode. It's been a real pleasure. If you can make it to the accelerator and it's still open, that's great. I'll see you there. If not, stay tuned on this channel because I got a lot more stuff for you to really level up your leadership in a whole bunch of different areas. I'll see you soon. Before you head out, if you've been thinking for a while now that you need to operate more strategically, but you haven't figured out how to actually make that leap, that's exactly what we work on in the Strategic Leadership Accelerator. Over 6 live sessions and a focused cohort, you'll run through the specific steps to shift you from doing everything yourself to leading and influencing with the kind of leverage that gets you to the next level. Whether that's a promotion, invitation to the board, or strategically scaling your business. Go to rmichaelanderson.com/strategic for a whole lot more on it. The link is in the show notes as well.